How far would you go to bring back the thing you love the most? For Natalie, she'd go further than most could ever possibly consider. Recently, I've been dissecting the TikTok account NatalieDoesNails, and today I will continue to delve deeper and share some new theories with you guys. Since my last video, there's been a few developments in the story, and we'll start off with 3 new drawings of Bennard uploaded to Natalie's story. These 3 pictures, when combined, depict the classic saying, "Speak no evil, see no evil, hear no evil." This refers to the 3 wise monkeys, which is a Japanese pictorial maxim which symbolises the principle of avoiding evil thoughts, words and deeds, often depicted by monkeys covering their eyes, ears and mouth. In the West, it has a more sarcastic meaning, and it kind of implies turning a blind eye to wrongdoing. The original meaning, which is from 17th century Japan, emphasises personal discipline and purity, but its modern use often highlights willful ignorance and a refusal to acknowledge impropriety. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil can mean to avoid negativity, evil thoughts and wrongdoing by not looking at, listening to or talking about them. And it's often used sarcastically to describe someone who chooses to ignore wrongdoing, acting selfishly or cowardly by feigning ignorance. I think if we look at this from the perspective of Natalie's account, it's probably being used to depict Bennard as a coward, ignoring his wrongdoings, feigning ignorance. It could also be showing that Bennard ignores Natalie's wrongdoings because he's so eager to please her. He's been trained into obedience. With that obedience, feigning ignorance comes hand in hand with that. I think we could possibly also look at this as Natalie describing herself through Bennard. I mean, she's ignoring her own wrongdoing. She is acting selfishly and she is feigning ignorance again. She's pretending that she doesn't know what she's doing. So it is maybe possible that she's talking about herself. Maybe she's trying to say this is how she thinks Bennard sees her. Not sure about that one. It's probably more likely that it's depicting Bennard, but it would make sense for Natalie as well. It's also really interesting to note that in both the first and the last image, we see Bennard clutching a rosary, which we can probably assume to be the same rosary that Natalie's posted when she spoke about the fact she had a lot of memories with it, and then the same rosary that Natalie put onto Lucy during her teeth removal process. Also interesting to note that he's wrapped in something, either a robe or possibly a blanket. And in the second drawing, he has a really humanoid body. His head and his paws are very dog-like, but the actual build of the drawing makes him look, it makes it look it's a dog head on a human body. Possibly Lucy. I don't know, maybe that's how Natalie sees Lucy. She genuinely thinks that they're merged and that's why she's drawn it like that. I'm not sure. So yeah, we can probably agree that Natalie's drawing Bennard in his current state merged with Lucy. I would probably lean towards it's more likely that she's depicting Bennard in a robe. He's being depicted as a saint, possibly, but then it could be that he's in a blanket because that kind of links in with going back to when he was a puppy. It depicts him as innocent, you wrap a puppy in a blanket when you take it home. I don't know. It could be either. Either could work. I'm not sure. I'd probably lean more towards that it's a robe and she's depicting him as a saint, but I'm not sure. The next day, we then have another story posted by Natalie, which is another drawing on her story, and this one depicts 3 eyes, a spider, and 3 crosses. It has the caption, "Tickling limbs walk across my arms, the same feeling of your warm breath on my neck." I think this post is probably referring to her boyfriend more. To me, it makes more sense to refer to her boyfriend than it would to Bennard. The imagery of feeling your warm breath on my neck, to me, definitely leans towards a relationship dynamic, possibly a controlling dynamic. The quote itself, in my opinion, does come across quite menacing. It sounds a lot like the term someone breathing down your neck, which obviously is someone's watching your every move, they're controlling you. So this could definitely link to the boyfriend. We already know that Natalie feels as if she's being held back by him. He's not letting her near the daughter. He doesn't approve of the drinking. He doesn't approve of whatever's going on with Bennard. Natalie feels as if she's being held back by him. He's breathing down her neck, not letting her do anything. We also see the spider pop up again, which we've had in the last 2 videos now, I think. If we're looking at this from the perspective of, I think this is about her boyfriend rather than Bennard, I think that the 3 crosses represent Natalie, John, the ex-boyfriend, and then her daughter. But if you want to look at this from a different perspective, the 3 crosses could be Lucy, Natalie, and Bennard. I mean, it would make sense to be Bennard, but it would be more that Natalie is breathing down his neck, she's in control. So I'm not too sure that it is about Bennard in this case. I suppose it could also be about Lucy, but to me, this makes most sense that she's speaking about their ex-boyfriend. We also see what looks to be like stars around the eyes. I'm not sure if they're meant to be stars or if they're just dots, but we obviously did see stars be a reoccurring theme in, I think, from the very start. So it's interesting to see if she's bringing this imagery back up again. When Natalie was asked about her favourite spiders, she responded, "Cellar or orb spiders. I like the bodies and limbs." When I looked into orb spiders, they're most known for their webs, which I think makes a lot of sense. Obviously, I keep saying that Natalie's crafting this web of lies. She's crafting this web so that Bennard can't escape. She's tying him in. I think that adds up quite well. It makes sense that her favourite spider is one who's known for the webs it creates. We know she's the creator of Bennard, and in turn, she's the one, creating his body, his limbs. I think that makes a lot of sense to what she said as well. It almost sounds like she's fascinated by the idea of different bodies, which we know she is. She's trying again and again to make these different forms. So I don't know, I think her answer really does line up with everything we've looked at already. The person that was having this conversation with her then also goes on to ask if she knows of any stories involving spiders, to which she responds, "I suppose when King David hid into a cave and a spider wove a spiderweb at the entrance of the cave to protect him." Again, I think this is very interesting. I think she's almost saying that she's the spider. She feels she's protecting Bennard, who in this case is David. I don't know, that might be a bit of a stretch. It just feels like all this imagery places her as the spider and Bennard as the one that's being webbed, who's being quote-unquote protected by Natalie. Obviously, we know Natalie isn't protecting him, but I think she's trying to get across this image that she's the protector. She's able to weave the web. We then move on to the next thing posted by Natalie, which was on the same day, and we see an illustration of a saint. When I look this up, it's Saint Lucy. So, if we think about this, in my last video, I said that possibly all the characters have saint names and that might be important. I think this pretty much does confirm the idea that all the names in this story do tie back to saints. If we look into Saint Lucy is known as a Christian martyr and virgin, a patron saint of the blind and eye problems, and a symbol of light and darkness. She's famous for her eyes, either plucked out or offered. Once again, we're seeing this reoccurring symbolism of eyes. Eyes have been so important throughout, so you can imagine my shock when I searched up Saint Lucy and it came up that she's famous for her eyes. Makes a lot of sense. Her story basically involves dedicating herself to God and facing martyrdom by fire and sword. I think that might become important later. We hear that in St. Lucy's story, when soldiers tried to burn her, the flames wouldn't touch her, and her eyes were then plucked out, and then her throat was pierced by a sword, leading to her death. I'm taking this as we will possibly see Lucy follow this timeline. It mentions fire, which we already know is a big thing throughout. I wonder if Natalie will try and burn Lucy, as she did with Bennard, fail, and then take her eyes, possibly, and then destroy her in the same way that she did to Bennard. that could be a complete stretch. The eyes, the motive of eyes, it's reoccurred so much. It really feels like the name is an intentional choice now, but I don't know, we'll have to see what Natalie does, I suppose. When asked, Natalie said that her patron saint is St. Mary. Obviously, St. Mary is the mother of Jesus. She was chosen by God to carry baby Jesus. This kind of made me think that obviously we know that Natalie is the mother, the creator of Bennard. Possibly seeing Bennard as the son of God, she's seeing herself as the chosen one. We kind of know that through all of the language she uses. It's obviously well known that St. Mary, the mother of Jesus, was chosen by God to conceive Jesus miraculously through the Holy Spirit. Again, I think this fits in really well with what Natalie's doing. She feels as if she's, above other people because she's making this creation of Bennard. I don't know, it seems to add up a lot to me and make a lot of sense, so you guys can give me your opinion on that one. If we then look into Natalie's name, Natalie is a Latin name, which obviously we've seen Natalie use Latin throughout. Really interesting to note that the name Natalie means Christmas Day or birthday of the Lord. I think when we take into account the fact that Natalie has this God complex and sees herself as this higher power, this creator, the fact that her name literally means birthday of the Lord, I think is very interesting and really does link in to the way she views herself. If you then look up a Saint Natalie, there isn't a Saint Natalie, but there's a Saint Natalia, which I think it's really interesting. Saint Natalia is the patron saint of wives and widows, especially those seeking comfort and courage during times of persecution and hard loss. Obviously, we've seen Natalie go through this hard loss with Bennard. St. Natalia is also known to be devoted to her husband and has a deep trust in God, and I think this really contradicts what Natalie is. Natalie isn't with her partner. She cares more about bringing back Bennard than being a girlfriend and a mother. She doesn't. That isn't her priority. Her priority is Bennard. And she isn't particularly trusting in God anymore. She's told us explicitly that she's losing faith in the church. I don't know. I think it's an interesting contrast where we know that she has had this hard loss and she follows that, but then there's just a massive contradiction where we know she isn't devoted to her partner and she isn't trusting in God. I don't know, I think it's quite interesting. When asked, Natalie said that she loves Archangel Michael. I'm not sure how important this is to mention. It could have just been Natalie kind of conversing, but Archangel Michael is known as a powerful spiritual warrior, the leader of God's armies and a protector against evil. He's famous for defeating Satan and casting him out of heaven. I think this is quite interesting because we've obviously seen this kind of idea of Satan and hell arise very gently throughout. She's not outwardly talking about hell all the time. She kind of hints towards it in her prayers and in the things she says. So I do think it's interesting that she loves Archangel Michael, who is the guardian of the church. I don't know. Also, quite interesting, he is the one who weighs souls on Judgment Day. He symbolizes divine power and humility. I don't know if maybe Natalie sees herself as Archangel Michael. She's powerful. She is the leader of God's heavenly armies. In this case, the people around her, she feels as if she's the leader of them. I don't know. Maybe that's a bit of a reach from me. I just feel like it's been mentioned for a reason. And obviously I've already brought up this idea that judge, jury and executioner, Natalie is the judge. For this to then come up and hear that Archangel Michael is the judge on Judgment Day, there's quite a lot of similarities. So I think that's an interesting point to note. If we now move on to Natalie's most recent video clip, the video itself is really dark. It's actually really hard to see what's going on, but it shows Bennard on the floor, and then we see a very quick clip of a fire poker inside a fire. And then we see Bennard cowering against the wall whilst Natalie approaches him and then proceeds to poke him with the fire poker. This video, to me, again, it's a really angry one. The idea of using fire, again, we see fire being brought up, and this time it's being used as a weapon almost. It's being used as a way to ensure obedience. It shows a lot of Natalie's anger. We can see that she's getting tired with Bennard. She's no longer kind of training him into obedience kindly. She's resorted to violence, pretty much. She's now having to physically burn him. She's having to use punishment in order to get what she wants. We can also kind of just... It feels like we're seeing Bennard getting weaker. He's coming to accept that Natalie is going to do this to him. Again, we know this isn't Bennard, this is Lucy. And when you think about it like that, and you think this is a human that's been stuffed inside a dog suit and made to act like a dog for the past 2 weeks, yeah, she probably is getting a lot weaker. She's probably not being fed or watered. She's being degraded massively by Natalie. It just kind of feels like we're watching her just kind of give up, just accepting what Natalie's going to do to her. We also have a lot of comments on this video. Natalie says, "I'm a bit worried about rebuilding this one though." That's interesting. We can obviously already see that she's planning on getting rid of Lucy at some point. She's already thinking about how to rebuild him. I mean, that says enough to me. She's already thinking about how she's going to do it. We know that Lucy's going to be gone at some point. She's also asked in the comments if she's heard from her daughter, and she responds to this by saying, "I haven't heard from her directly, but I am planning on doing something about that." That one is interesting. Obviously, I think she's planning on using the daughter. I spoke about that in my last video. Obviously, I already think that she's going to use the daughter. For her to now say, "I'm planning on doing something about that," definitely sounds like something's going to happen with the daughter. I'm not really sure what yet, but it definitely sounds like she's getting closer to getting rid of Lucy and getting the daughter. When she's asked what she's doing, she says, "Fire poker. Very gentle and soft touch of it. She's okay, don't worry." Someone then responds, "I thought Bennard was a male." And she responds, "He is." I found this one really interesting. This might be one of the first times that we've heard Natalie actually acknowledge that it's Lucy she's hurting, not Bennard. Before, it seems like anytime someone tries to mention Lucy, she feigns ignorance. She pretends, "No, this is Bennard, this isn't Lucy, what are you talking about?" For her to now say she's okay, the pretense is slipping. She's fully aware of what she's doing. I don't know, I thought that was really interesting for her to now acknowledge that when she's been so focused on acknowledging it before. So, if we now move on to some of the theories I've developed in the last week. In my last video, I mentioned about the 5 stages of grief, and I said how there might be a chance that we're seeing her go through the 5 stages of grief. I think so far, we've had denial, which was in the beginning, where she was posting the digital Bennard about how much she missed him and how much she needed him back. I think we then moved on to anger, which we can see in the Boxing Day vlog, the video where she's branding him with a fire poker, the one where she's teasing him with the blueberries. There's a lot of anger in all of those, as well as in her comments. And I think we are now starting to see her move on to bargaining. Someone sent me a screenshot of a conversation with Natalie where she literally uses the term bargain with them. That really stuck out to me because I don't think that bargain is a very common word to use naturally. I can't really think of any time personally I've used the word bargain in casual conversation. It feels like a very intentional choice of word to use. So I do think this theory could hold up and we could see her now move on to bargaining. I think this could be presented in a way that she'll be like, "If you bring Bennard back to me, I'll do this, I'll be good, I'll pray." I don't know, I think it could go in that direction. We'll just have to see. We then move on to the daughter theory. Obviously I mentioned this last video. I do think it's becoming more and more apparent that she is going to involve her daughter somehow. I really can't decide how she's going to do it. We could see her daughter be used for the next form of Bennard, but I don't know if this is almost too obvious, if we'll see her do something even more deranged. I don't know, we're just going to have to wait and see Natalie's plan for her, but I don't think it's long before we do see that. I also got a comment on my last video about how Natalie uses this rhetoric of abusive religious parents, and as I was reading this comment, it was really interesting because she does. I think it's a really interesting thing to note that possibly Natalie is repeating the pattern and treating Bennard the way that she was treated by her parents. We've obviously heard her mention that she didn't have a great relationship with them. They were very religious. I don't know, I wonder if she's copying this in Bennard and possibly that's why her daughter was taken away from her. I don't know, just something to think about. I thought that comment was really interesting, so thank you for leaving that comment. Right, the next two are the two big ones, I think. So, I have the purification theory. This one was helped by one of the members of the Discord server. So, the idea is that we think possibly Natalie killed Bennard, the original form of Bennard, by burning him, putting him in the furnace, or setting him on fire in some way because he was displaying sins, and Natalie didn't like seeing him display sins. And I think that does make sense because a normal puppy would display sins. Obviously, we know that Bennard was under a year old when he died, and when I think back to when my dog was a puppy, yeah, he was sinning like crazy. Like, if you want to put it like that, like, dogs are sinful, you know? They're lazy, they're greedy, they're lustful, they always display those traits. So I think Natalie burnt him in an act of purification, and then after she burnt him, she then transported him to a body of water, a river, a lake, either as an entire dog or as ashes, and then either threw his ashes into the lake to rebirth him or put the body in the water as an act of either rebirth or baptism. This, when it got mentioned, instantly made a lot of sense to me because I've been saying since the first video, we're having this repetitive motif of water, but anytime you ask Natalie about Bennard's experience with water, she says it was a good thing, and we're also seeing this repetition of fire, and when asked how Bennard dies, she just says it was warm. So this does add up almost perfectly. It would make sense as to why Natalie is so adamant that he has no bad memories with water, as having a rebirth would be a good memory. So yeah, I think this is a very, very plausible theory that makes a lot of sense. And it then links very heavily into my next theory, which, combined with this one, is our biggest and probably most likely theory to date. So, I think that we're seeing Bennard present all of the 7 deadly sins. So far, we've seen gluttony, we've seen sloth, and we've seen wrath. But think about it. Natalie is the creator of Bennard, and Natalie sees herself as God. She's creating in her image, but seems entirely confused when the new forms of Bennard she creates show sinful behaviour. Bennard is depicting all of the sins that Natalie has. Bennard can't become this perfect being like Natalie intends because he's being made in her image and Natalie herself is a sinner. He can't be perfect. She keeps destroying these vessels because they're displaying sin, and that's not what she wants, but there will never be a perfect version of Bennard until Natalie herself stops sinning. He mirrors every sin that Natalie shows. We hear Natalie say that she's lazy, she's tired, and then we see Bennard become lazy and tired. We saw Natalie say how she's going to eat herself to death, how she's drinking excessively, and then we see Bennard become gluttonous and greedy. We then see Natalie get angry at Bennard and start feeling these really strong feelings of wrath towards him, and we see Bennard respond by biting Natalie and going against her. He can't be perfect because he is Natalie. He's being made in her image because she is the creator. She sees herself as God. I think we'll see him go through all the 7 sins, because Natalie herself displays all the 7 deadly sins. I think we will just have to wait and see how this develops in the coming weeks to fully solidify what's happening, but I think this is a very, very plausible theory to happen. Well, that was going to be the full video, but the same night I finished writing everything up, things actually got a lot more interesting. A viewer of these videos noticed me in the comments of Natalie's most recent video, said hi to me, to which I responded saying hi, and then Natalie just, to put it lightly, went off the fucking rails. She responded both to my comment and the other person's comment with this picture multiple times, and then uploaded the picture to her story. You will have to bear with me here on this bit because it's really difficult to follow all of this. It was absolute madness. So, if we look into the picture she posted, it's a scoby, which is a gelatinous rubbery disc made of bacteria and yeast that ferments sweet tea into kombucha. It's known as the mother because it acts as a starter because it creates new daughter scobies with each brew. Every time you make a brew, a new daughter scoby is born. I think this is Natalie alluding to her plans with her daughter, potentially getting closer to completing these plans. If we then look into kombucha in a spiritual sense, it's the tea of immortality, and the symbiotic scoby is a metaphor for embracing life's unfolding potential. Please just try and stay with me here. This bit is so confusing. A lot happened in a very short amount of time, which is very confusing to try and explain. I think maybe interesting to mention that a scoby it looks really flesh-like. Initially, we thought this was some kind of alluding to either Bennard or Lucy's flesh. It's literally just bacteria and yeast. I think that's a really interesting thing to post. Right. After she posted all of this stuff on her story, she then messaged me out of nowhere, simply saying the word scob. The only meaning that I can find for the word scob is pretty young women. So I have no idea why she just messaged me this out of nowhere. At this point, she had uploaded the picture to her story and was having multiple conversations with multiple people, and I know this because a lot of them are in the Discord server. She mentions the rapper Baby No Money, saying, "Baby No Money, you're not fucking funny. You cheated on honey, you better not find me." She then starts saying things such as, "Mother Scoby, mother makes babies," and then just keeps repeating Scoby mother and sending angel emojis. Randomly, she also then mentions Meghan Trainor and says scob again. I have absolutely no idea where she's saying this. She then continues to mention Baby No Money to other people, but when someone responds saying, "Baby No Money, I thought he quit," she just responds with, "Shut up." When someone asks, "Are you making kombucha, Natalie?" she says, "Yes, I crave kombucha so much, I need it so bad," with another angel emoji. They then ask, "What's it like?" to which Natalie responds, "Like mochi, it's salty and like vinegar. Then it tastes so sweet and refreshing if you get through all the hard parts. It's all so beautiful." She then says, "Yes, I love it, almost decaying. Very little though, it's okay." She then continues the Baby No Money rant, saying, "I hate Baby No Money, I'm tired so much, I need a nap. I hate him, shut up, shut up." Someone then responds, "Maybe you should get some sleep, you seem tired." And she responds with 2 angry emojis and says, "Let him leave his physical body and his arteries." I cannot for the life of me translate the rest of this line. The next message says, "Please take him, please take him, please take him." And she then follows up with scob again. She then messaged me saying, "I'm freaking out, I'm okay." To which I responded, "Why are you freaking out, Queen?" She then says, "I'm not Queen, I'm okay." I then ask, "Are you with Sarah? How's Bennard? Did John cheat? Sorry, lots of questions." Natalie responds, "Questions for another time. No, nothing happened, I'm okay. Personal." I said, "Okay, Nat, stay safe," to which she responds, "Yes, I will make sure I'm safe tucked away, yes." She then starts saying that she doesn't know Baby No Money. When she's asked if she's seen her daughter recently, she says, "Don't know, go Google it. Google stole my scob." She then says nobody is pure. A really random one, she responded to one person saying, "I'm kombuchaing all over the place." Someone else messaged her saying, wow, what is this? It looks like some mochi. She responds, it's some wonderful kombucha. They respond, sounds really yummy. So were you running to make some? For you or for Bennard? She responds, I want it so bad. This person responds, the kombucha or Bennard? To which Natalie replies, both. I'm drooling. Obviously, please keep bearing with me here, it's very confusing. There was a lot of people messaging her and sending me screenshots of the messages, so I'm trying to get all of the important ones out. She was speaking to someone else who she told them to try hydration deprivation as a punishment, saying, a full 3 days will do the trick. Factually, this would kill a dog. They can only survive 3 days with no water. I think that kind of gives us an insight into what she's been doing to Lucy. When she's asked, Natalie, I need to know if your kids are with your boyfriend still. She responds, sorry, this is currently out of stock. I'll let you know when it's available again. Someone then messages her saying, I think the majority of people would really want a video explaining things right now, Natalie. She responds, what video could ever express the grievous, incessantly beckoning sea of regret that stains my hands in carnadine? Again, she's continuously using the angel emoji. She keeps mentioning scoby mothers make babies. Someone says, are you a scoby mother? She responds, 50-50. Poseidon falters between my fingertips and his rippling spring, no matter how grandeur, can reverse the depth of its pronunciation. Somebody asks, did something bad happen to Lucy? To which she responds, silence speaks greater than words. Angel emoji. Phew, my chest feels lighter already. I initially took this as confirmation that she had killed Lucy. She then uploaded a story, which we'll cover after we get through all of this. At this point, I believe she'd mostly stopped responding to other people, but kept messaging me. She sends an angel emoji, to which I respond, is Lucy an angel now, Nat? She responds, angels are perceived to be of absolute horror in their crude physicality, however pertain to God's will with unfaltering effort. Do you perceive me with horror? I then respond, whoever conceals their sins does not prosper, but the one who confesses and renounces them finds mercy. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just and will forgive us for sins and purify us from all unrighteousness. She then responds to this with a plate emoji. I ask, hungry, to which she says, very. She then typed for like 10 minutes and finally said, Bennard's parasitic gluttony undulates upon his belly of silk. Its fingers reach up from his stomach and pluck each tooth out one by one, rumbling and wailing to be freed of sin. The blood which slowly drains down his throat is not that of impurity, but of mercy, as in this defenseless form he can only ever be pure. I respond, Bennard doesn't deserve this, Natalie. Is he really the sinner here? She fires back with, who are you to equate the morality of sin? To which I said, who are you to decide the punishment for sin? She responds, I am purity, with an angel emoji. I respond, confess. Nevertheless, God's solid foundation stands firm, sealed with this inscription, the Lord knows those who are his, and everyone who confesses the name of the Lord must turn away with wickedness. Whoever conceals their sins does not prosper, but the one who confesses and renounces them finds mercy. She then hits me with, hypocrite. To which I said, confess your sins and I'll confess mine. She then says, the pulsation of remembrance prevents me from forgetting sin and stains my skin incessantly. Confession is an extra breath, an extra pulse, and pull and beat of blood which washes over me. I say, you'll feel better if you confess. What did you do to Lucy? She says, no. I say, I know you killed her, Natalie. She responds, she's alive. That's all I say for now. Clarity cannot precede a simple path. Do not be so inclined to stubborn faith. Your path has barely crossed my own and does not falter from simplicity. I responded with this. She then says, reminds me of somebody close to me. I don't recall why teeth chatter when scared though. Angel emoji. I then say, I hope we're still friends, Natalie. Tough love is needed sometimes. I'm sure you of all people know that. To which she says, my hands are tough with calluses lately, however, I must keep working. When I asked what she was baking because of what was on her story, she responds with, a treat. The world is invited to my table to dine. When I asked what kind of treat, she simply said goodnight with another angel emoji, and that was the end of it. The story that she posted depicted what I think is someone's head and shoulder in a green screen format there really isn't much to dissect here. You can't see a lot at all, and we don't know what it links to yet. The caption on it reads, "I'm baking up a nice warm treat for my friends." Not sure what that is. There's really no elaboration on it. Right, where do we start with this? Obviously, just bear with me while I try and explain. There's a lot to try and break down, and I'm not really sure what was going on for half of it. What I'm taking from this is that something bad has happened to Lucy, that obviously she's inflicted, hence the freak out. We now know that she didn't kill her, as she confirmed this to me, but I am assuming Lucy's very badly injured, and it is important to keep in mind that Natalie is an unreliable narrator. I think we can also assume that she's getting closer to her daughter from some of the stuff she said. I wonder if possibly Natalie removed the rest of Lucy's teeth, which is why she started going on about Bennard and the teeth. Pluck each tooth out one by one. Obviously, we know she's now not plucking out Bennard's teeth, it's Lucy. So I wonder if she's speaking about Lucy and using the front of Bennard. The way that she's speaking throughout all of this is really reminiscent of the YouTube comments that she was writing when she was saying she was drunk. But again, I can't confirm this because when I asked if she was drunk, she didn't answer the question. I think one of the biggest things to look at here is how she absolutely refused to let me get the moral high ground. When I asked about how is Bennard really the sinner here, she responds with, "Who are you to equate the morality of sin?" Obviously, I'm trying to argue that she's the sinner. She responds that she's purity, therefore she can't be accused, she's beyond accusation. It kind of, again, it positions her as the judge, the executioner. She decides what she is. Another thing that I found really interesting to note is angels are perceived to be of absolute horror in their crude physicality. Here she's talking about biblically accurate angels who are scary. Their holiness is inseparable from terror. This kind of came across to me like nothing she's doing is gentle. It's violent, it's horrific, I don't know, she's no longer coming across with this like gentle language. She's talking about biblical angels and that's a violent thing. It's not a gentle, calm thing. This is then reinforced where she starts using the kind of grotesque language. She talks about the teeth removal, a parasitic gluttony. She talks about blood as mercy. This kind of comes across to me. She's saying that suffering is important for purification, and confession gives her no relief. Confession is a burden. This completely flips what I was trying to do with saying confess and be forgiven. She completely unallows this to happen because all she can say is confession is not relief. It's a burden. It's a bad thing. And she just refused to let me get the moral high ground. It was a really different insight into Natalie as a character. She came across really quite aggressive. We were almost fighting. We were arguing. I think the most important thing she said to me was the little Bennard monologue where she talks again about this parasitic gluttony. Again, we're hearing gluttony be brought up. It's one of the 7 deadly sins. We hear the teeth being removed one by one. We obviously already know that Lucy's had some teeth removed, but this comes across to me like Natalie has now removed the rest of Lucy's teeth. She mentions how he's wailing to be freed of sin. She also mentions in this defenseless form he can only ever be pure. She's saying that purity only comes when he's entirely defenseless, when he can't fight back anymore, when he can no longer sin. This kind of mirrors that really classic idea that Bennard is the scapegoat. It makes us think that sin is internalized in the body, and in order to be cleansed, you have to be destroyed. Destruction becomes cleansing. Innocence is achieved through being helpless. Again, I want to mention when I try to say Bennard doesn't deserve this, she responds, "Who are you to equate the morality of sin?" This implies that a matter of deserving doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he deserves it or not. Innocence is not a protector. She's saying that it's something that happens no matter how deserving you are or how innocent you are. She's saying that in order to be pure, Bennard deserves what she's doing. I'm also I'm continuously trying to push confession, trying to get an answer out of her. And all she keeps responding is, confession is an extra breath, an extra pulse, which washes over me. She's saying that confession is not a cleansing thing. It's something she doesn't want to do. It's an unbearable thing to think of doing. She's kind of saying that remembering is a punishment. Confession is what keeps sin alive. This kind of aligns with what she says, the pulsation of remembrance prevents me from forgetting sin. She's not refusing confession out of denial. She's refusing it because she can't forget, and confession would worsen that, I think. We also have her reaction to me sending the teeth chattering meme. It's very intentional. She says, reminds me of somebody close to me. We see that idea of teeth reoccurring. We already know that Bennard's teeth are removed. She links teeth to fear and memory. Teeth often symbolise identity, survival, speech. By removing the teeth, she's silencing Bennard or Lucy. It's a vulnerability. You can't really do anything without teeth. The idea of chattering teeth it shows the idea of fear before destruction. You're scared of what's coming. It kind of suggests to me that it kind of comes across like she's warning me about what happens if you get too close. I wonder if Lucy was kind of saying this stuff about how Bennard didn't deserve it and Natalie was in the wrong. And in response to that, Lucy was incorporated into Natalie's plans and Lucy's teeth were removed. I don't know. I could be wrong there, but that's kind of how it comes across to me. We also then have a tone shift, which made me incredibly uncomfortable. The tone shifts from this quite confrontational tone to almost a ritualistic preparation kind of thing. She says, my hands are tough with calluses lately. She also says, a treat, the world is invited to my table to dine. This is classic ritual language. The calloused hands is obviously her saying that she's constantly working on Bennard. She's making these sacrifices. She's injuring her hands, but she's continuing because she feels she has to make this sacrifice, do this work. The idea of the world is invited to my table to dine, it's like communion almost. The word treat, again, it's this deceptive softness which masks consumption. It kind of mirrors the idea of eating in the Bible. You go to, in the Bible, they all go to Jesus's table to eat. They share bread, they share wine. It's that kind of image, but completely stripped back of kindness and comfort. Kind of comes across to me. She's kind of saying that something or someone is consumed. I don't know. I don't want to assume things. It really comes across like she's going to eat Lucy. I'm sure that's me just kind of going too far with things. Really sounds like she's going to serve up Lucy to dispose of the body. I'm sure I'm wrong there. I really hope I'm wrong there. It also kind of feels like purity is something that can be gained. It's distributed through participation with this treat. We then see her say goodnight and the angel emoji again. This is obviously very intentional. It was a cut-off. She'd said everything she wanted to say. She's withholding information until she's ready to reveal it all. Very uncomfortable. She's really quite scary, honestly. Every time I message her, I'm like, she's a scary woman. I think the last important thing to mention is the power shift throughout. Over the conversation, the power, who has the power changes. I try and initiate this moral high ground, this moral authority by accusing her. She then reframes morality as she's purity. She doesn't need to have morals. She is purity. I then try and push her to confess. she reframes this confession as something violent, something that's worse than keeping it inside. I accuse her of murder. She responds with, she's alive, that's all I say for now. Clarity cannot precede a simple path. Do not be so inclined to stubborn faith. Your path has barely crossed my own and does not falter from simplicity. She's basically saying that I know nothing about her and I'm getting too involved, which, fair enough, to be honest. But, you know, it comes across again very aggressive. She's saying, we have no idea what she's doing. We're lower beings than her. We're not as powerful as she is. We don't have that purity that she apparently has. She ends the conversation by inviting the world to her table. It's very uncomfortable. It's really quite an ominous thing. By the end of the conversation, I'm no longer interrogating her. I'm almost a participant. I'm a witness to what she's doing. It's very uncomfortable, honestly. It's freaky as hell. When she mentions how sin stains her skin incessantly, this kind of makes sin become this visible outside thing. She knows that it's starting to show on her. I think this is a really interesting thing to say. So, the overruling conclusion we came to from this was with the help of the people in my Discord server, so thank you for that. We kind of come up with the idea that Lucy is injured. She's probably going to die very soon. This Bennard has failed. I think we can probably say that this wasn't fully intentional. It probably came from the violent, the cruel treatment, the dehydration, the branding, the teeth pulling. We also see this theme that she's mad at John, I think. I think the repetition of baby no money was kind of a dig at the ex-boyfriend. Maybe he looks like baby no money, maybe he liked baby no money, but it kind of gives us this idea that maybe she was cheated on. We obviously also hear the mother scoby stuff be referenced a lot. I think it's both a reference to immortality and motherhood. We know that the daughter, Sarah, seems to be her next target. I think we can probably take from this that she was probably drunk. I don't know. She started coming across as drunk at the beginning, but when she had that conversation with me, she didn't at all. I'm not sure about that bit. It feels like she's not taking whatever she did to Lucy well, though. I think she's trying to convince herself it's for the greater good. She says once you get past the hard parts, it becomes beautiful. She mentions angels pertaining to God's will with unfaltering effort. This comes across as she's doing what she thinks has to be done. I don't know about this, but the idea that she's possibly going to eat Lucy is definitely there. She mentions being hungry before, and it's communion almost. She's saying that we're invited to her table to dine. I don't know. The repetitive use of scob, I can't really make too much of an analytical point from that one. Possibly she's using it to say that her daughter, she's describing her daughter by using it. The saying, Google stole my scob, maybe trying to say that her daughter was taken away. I don't know. That one's kind of baffled me. If you guys have any idea on that, let me know. Since all of this has happened, she's then uploaded a video, which does definitely lead me to believe that Lucy is badly injured. The video just depicts Lucy like still in Bennard, just completely limp. She's calm. She's being stroked, I think, by Natalie. There's no fighting back at all. She's either dead in there, and Natalie hasn't told us yet, or she's like very badly injured. You know, she's near her end. I think that's covered everything. I know the ending to this has been incredibly confusing. Believe me, I am just as confused as you guys are, but thank you for bearing with me. I hope I explained everything okay. I've tried my best. It was a very confusing couple of hours. If you've made it this far, I just wanted to say thank you guys for watching. These videos mean a lot to me, and I do try and put a lot of effort in, and I'm really glad you guys are enjoying them. Please do consider leaving a like and subscribing, as it does help me a lot, and I am trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, which is absolutely crazy to say, as when I'm recording this right now, I only uploaded my first video a week ago. So I just want to say again, thank you for all the support, and thank you for watching this video.